Hey, have you ever wondered why some people seem to do a particular diet and they get really good results, and the other person does the exact same thing and they just seem to struggle with it and they just never seem to get anywhere? Well, that's what I want to talk to you today about. It's basically called energy, balance, and metabolism. I'll try not to get too sophisticated here, but just I think if you really understand like physiologically how your body works, it might open a whole new door or window of thinking about why this happens to particular people. One may be really metabolically flexible, one may be metabolically inflexible, and then you add in genetics and things of that nature, you're going to see differences when it comes to that. So let's just dive right in real quick. I said you could use either fat or sugar for energy, and I've talked about insulin resistance on another video. Go back and watch it a little bit. It might help help you understand this a little bit better. But when you're insulin resistance, it just means when you eat carbohydrates, the carbohydrates go into the bloodstream and insulin sends a signal into the cell. The cell is not getting the proper signaling, so the sugar doesn't get used as energy. Normally the sugar would convert that sugar into adenosine triphosphate, which is ATP, our body's main energy source. And that sugar ends up just getting stored as fat. And this is where a lot of belly fat comes from. And that's what insulin resistance is. So when you eat sugar or carbohydrates, the body doesn't use that sugar very well and it stores it as fat. That's what insulin resistance is. Another reason why you might not use fat very well is these mitochondria inside here maybe aren't working properly, aren't sufficient. Maybe you have liver congestion, you have bad digestion, and that basically congests the liver, which when the liver is congested, it doesn't make proper bile. The bile can't emulsify the fats very well and break them down, so then it can't get assimilated and sent to the cells and get used for energy, right? So that's why you may be metabolically inflexible. So there's a couple things that we can do to change that and reverse it. But let's just start out like most people think in general that our body needs these carbohydrates for energy all the time. Now, there's no one-size-fits-all approach here, but there's a few things that maybe we can take a look at and look at differently just to maybe help the person that's never always struggled getting results when they've dieted like all the time, they just can't figure it out, and it leads to this mental barrier in their mind. They're just like, man, this really stinks, I can't ever figure it out. So there's some things that we can do, but let's just say you're sugar adapted. Just keep in mind, I want to help you understand what basal metabolic rate is, and this will help tie into what I'm talking about. But your basal metabolic rate is the amount of energy your body needs just to do its daily functions every day, day in and day out. And this basal metabolic rate includes things like brain function, heart, kidneys, liver, and muscle. And so your brain uses about 300 calories, your heart another 600, your kidneys use another 400, and liver 300. And let's just say, depending on how much muscle you have, it's going to be different, but let's just say you burn another 200 calories a day with the amount of muscle that you have. You're already at 1,800 calories just at your basal metabolic rate. That's what your body needs just to survive, right? So what most people do is they're restricting their calories like all the way down to maybe 1,000, 1,100 calories, and their body is demanding 1,800 calories. So you put your body in a huge deficit, right? And then you're going to the gym and working out more, expending more energy, right? This just puts your body into a really bad state because it's really smart. It looks at it and it's like, man, we're in a bad deficit here. We need to upregulate hormones that are going to store more fat. It's going to suppress hormones that are actually helping you to burn more fat, right? And then it's going to convert muscle, the very thing that helps you burn energy. It's going to break that muscle down and use that for energy instead. So now you just lowered your metabolism. You don't have any energy anymore. You're doing all this stuff. You're stressed out. And then you're just like, give up. And then you go back to eating normal and you gain all the weight back plus some, right? Well, that's just because you just lowered your metabolism and you damaged things. You probably lost more water weight and muscle mass, and you really never looked at your body fat percentage. That pretty much stayed the same, right? This is where we see a lot of people and where the predicament is they think by cutting calories and so forth and going to the gym more that they're going to lose weight, or our bodies don't really work that way. It sees the deficit and we're like, man, we need to kind of go into starvation mode, and starts holding on to everything and breaking down muscle tissue. So that's what typically happens. Now, it doesn't have to be that way. You can still do more of like a higher protein, still keep the carbs up higher, around 100 to 150 grams, depending on what your goals are, how much activity that you're currently doing, and so forth. This is kind of just relative, but let's just say 150 to 100 carbs a day, and then you add in some really good healthy fats. You can do that, but the idea is that you want to find out where your basal metabolic rate and kind of stay close to that and create just a small deficit. That way it keeps all your hormones in check. It doesn't break down muscle tissue. So you need to eat proper and sufficient amount. It's not always eating less and going to the gym more. That's the solution. It's about how you think about things and helping the body, put it in a place where you can lower insulin resistance, lower inflammation around the cell membrane so the cell can become more fluid. So if your cells become more fluid, they're going to absorb nutrients better, and everything's going to start working more properly. So the idea is over here, we just don't want to. So let's switch gears to why using fat, or let's say the ketogenic diet, might be a little bit better option for somebody that's really struggled to lose weight. So the idea of a ketogenic diet is to force your body over to primarily using fat for fuel. When you use fat for fuel, it's going to help do some of them things like lower insulin resistance, drive down inflammation, help the mitochondria work better, help the cell membrane become more fluid, and help out all of the cells start working properly. So then you can start using fat and become more of a fat burner, right? See, fat doesn't make you fat. It's the inability to burn fat that makes you fat. And if you can start burning like stored fat and becoming a efficient fat burner, you'd be really excited, right? Start to lose weight, start to control your appetite. And that's basically what the ketogenic diet does, is you're eating predominantly fat. It's 70% of your calories come from fat, 20% protein, and 10% carbohydrates. And so when you lower the amount of carbohydrates, the body has to switch over to primarily breaking down like triglycerides or store fat. Then triglycerides are sent to the liver. The liver breaks those triglycerides into ketone bodies. The ketone bodies then go into the bloodstream, and they get used for energy and convert into ATP. It's a really efficient, great source of energy. What these ketones do is they send signals to the brain, and the brain says, hey, we got enough energy. We don't need to break down any type of muscle tissue. We're going to keep hormones that make you crave more food. They're going to be suppressed, and it's going to keep hormones that make you full, keep them elevated for a lot longer periods of time. So that way you don't have to maybe eat near as often. You don't have to meal prep as often. So you're not eating like 6 to 8 times a day. This is really freeing for a lot of people, and it puts your appetite back in control, so you're not craving all these different carbohydrates and like looking at food, and it just becomes a battle, right? You're like, I want that food so bad, right? Some of you can relate. But we want to be able to basically get your body over here to using fat and using ketones for energy. And that's what the ketogenic diet is primarily making that shift. And so the rules kind of change. You can eat less calories throughout the day because ketones are really high, and you don't have to meal prepping because you're eating maybe twice a day rather than 6 to 8 times a day. When your body's using stored fat, you can go long periods of time. Your body can store up to 40,000 calories a time. That's a lot, even for a lean person. Like, let's say they're at 8 to 10% body fat. That's huge, right? So you have unlimited amount of body fat to use for energy. And so that's basically what the ketogenic diet is. This is a great tool. If you're the person that struggled to lose weight and you hate like meal prepping. So again, it's just all based on what your goals are. It might be you struggle to lose weight. There's no one way that's necessarily better, but it could be based off of what your goals are. If you're that person that struggled to lose weight, the ketogenic diet might be that tool and that key thing that you need to lower the insulin resistance and lower inflammation, help heal your body. If you're looking for longevity purposes like cancer prevention, a lot of the other different chronic diseases, autoimmune diseases, MS, dementia, all these things are really affected through higher levels of ketones. And the mechanisms the mechanisms through which they work, you can go look them up. It's really exciting. But either way, you may like this type of diet and eating that way a little bit better, but you still got to figure out how to kind of lower the carbohydrates a little bit, have just a slight energy deficit so you can start burning fat and lower that insulin resistance. But our whole goal is to really help educate you. If this doesn't all make sense, please just go back and watch the video a couple different times. I think it'll be really beneficial for you. That's one of our goals at Final Start Fitness, is really to educate, because if you get educated, you're going to build more confidence. If you build more confidence, the whole health journey is going to be a lot easier, and your weight loss journey as well. So God bless you guys. We're so excited. If you like our videos, please share the page, and I hope these videos find you well. Have a great day.